and try to attempt this question. And after that, try to analyze your answers based on what Ms. Punia has written. And this approach you can use for all the toppers' answers. So as we discussed earlier, the first thing before even we write an answer, we need to strategize, we need to plan. Okay, so first thing we need to understand is what is the demand of the question. So here she has given a very broad challenge, not just limited to the civil services, but also limited or also expanded to the citizen at large, and also about the infrastructure that is present, right? Hello everyone, welcome to a special session on gaining insights from the topper scripts. For today's reference, we are taking the answer script of Ms. Komal Punia, who has secured All India Rank 6 in UPSC CSE 2024. In fact, Ms. Komal has also secured All India Rank 474 in her previous attempt. So it means that whatever she has done or has been doing in terms of answer writing has worked in the past as well. Now the question is, what can toppers answer scripts teach us about answer writing? So the question is, how do we utilize the toppers answer scripts? So the point is that toppers answer scripts are not just answers. They are in fact a roadmap to understand the art and science of answer writing. It helps us to navigate the problems of questions or in the exam that we get in a very effective manner. It helps us to present complex ideas with simplicity. It helps us to add value, and also it helps us to understand time management properly. So this is the reason why we will be going with the toppers copy. And one of the problems that aspirants face, that even though they understand the reason for writing mains and writing or practicing answer writing, they do not understand how to effectively analyze toppers copy. And that is why we are planning to have this session that will try to distill the problems with regard to analyzing toppers copy. So here we'll talk about 4 key elements with regard to toppers answers. The first thing that we'll talk about is with regard to strategic thinking. You can think of this element as very much similar to brainstorming. And what is brainstorming? So before you even put pen to the paper, you need to first understand what are you going to write for this particular question. So you need to plan, you need to strategize. And what exactly are the elements for that? You need to understand the demand of the question very well. Unless you understand the demand of the question well, whatever you write will not fetch you optimum marks. And this, by analyzing the answer scripts of the toppers, we can understand how the topper has interpreted a specific question. Then we understand the meaning of context by understanding the background which has prompted the examiner to ask a specific question. Now, this can be basically understood by looking at the introduction that the topper has used. So this will help us understand what is the context. Then the planning will involve understanding and identifying the various parts of a question. Sometimes the question will directly tell us that there are 3 parts and you have to write all the 3 parts. Then there would be some question which will have implicit parts where you have to devise or you have to break down the question yourself. By looking at the answers of the toppers, we can identify how they have used the planning process to break down the various parts of the question and strategize. The second aspect of identifying key elements from the topper is with regard to the organization of answer. Here, the most prominent organization is with regard to IBC, which is nothing but introduction, body, and conclusion. So structure essentially means how are you putting your plan to action, right? Then it contains thematic subheadings, right? So you also want to show the examiner that where exactly are the parts placed, right? And then it requires you to provide multiple arguments, and the arguments can be structured into various bullets. Then there is a smooth transition. So when we come across from one dimension to the other dimension, or from one subheading to the other subheading, it need not be very arbitrary or disruptive in nature. It should have some sort of smooth transition. Then with regard to content, now content is one of the most essential aspect. And most of the time what students do is that they do not write very specific content. So by analyzing topper's copy, we can gain a good insight on how to write specific content which is geared or which is planned towards this specific question. The second time or the second aspect is with regard to enrichment. For example, when it comes to polity, you can use case laws, you can use the recommendations of various committees. When it comes to Indian economy, you can use data, statistics to substantiate your points. Now, when it comes to the general questions, we may not understand how do we utilize data or case laws, but by analyzing the topper's copy, we'll get a good insight into how to go about this. And lastly, presentation. Topper's copy will also help us with the presentation part in terms of how does it look when you write something, right? Is it very messy or is it easy to understand? Is it very vague or is it concise? Or is it clearly, is it very difficult to understand, or all the subparts are clearly demarcated? So the point is that you want to make your answer as easy to access and as easy to read as compared to any other thing. So it needs to be very easy and it needs to be very simple in approach. The language needs to be very simple. It need not be complex. And how do we integrate diagrams and maps? So all these are elements of presentation which we understand that are important, but we may not be able to use them because we have a lot of confusion regarding them. By analyzing the topper's copy, we will get a good idea on how to go about it. So next, let's talk about a question. So this is a question that was attempted by Ms. Komal Punia. And what I would want you to do is pause this video for say 10 to 15 minutes and try to attempt this question. And after that, try to analyze your answers based on what Ms. Punia has written. And this approach you can use for all the toppers' answers. The question is, what are the various ways in which emerging technologies can be utilized by civil servants in ensuring efficient public service delivery and affecting change in India? Okay, so this is the question. Obviously, this is a question from General Studies, Paper 2. Polity and governance. It is, even though the word emerging technology is used, it is not a question of science and technology, because it is basically an application of role of emerging technologies for ensuring efficient public service delivery. Okay? So it is basically a question of governance. And if you further break it down, there can be two areas. One is with regard to important aspects of governance. Important aspects of governance, which includes transparency, accountability, e-governance, and citizen charter, social audit. Then with regard to other aspect, role of civil services in democracy. Within this, we can further classify it in terms of the various issues that are plagued by, or that civil services suffer from, and what are the measures that have taken to introduce the reforms in civil services. So this is an intersection of all these topics. So make sure that you take some time to write your answer for this question. Next, let's analyze what the topper has written. So as we discussed earlier, the first thing, before even we write an answer, we need to strategize, we need to plan. Okay, so first thing we need to understand is what is the demand of the question. Okay, so the demand of the question is that you have to talk about how emerging technologies can help in effective public service delivery. Right? So the premise is that there are so many problems with regard to public service delivery, or if you broaden it in terms of governance at large, because whatever the problems of governance will automatically be translated at this level as well. So we'll have a lot of problems with regard to governance in terms of transparency, in terms of accountability, in terms of last mile delivery, in terms of corruption. Then there are issues where it is not inclusive in nature. So there are so many issues that we face when it comes to governance or in the public service delivery. Now the question is, how do we use technologies to fill this gap? Now let's take a look at what the topper has used in terms of the introduction. So here this sets the context. Now she has given examples as well. Emerging technologies like ICT, artificial intelligence, blockchain, etc. provides a way for eradicating the problems that are ailing civil services. Exactly what we had discussed in terms of brainstorming, that here you have to know that this is essentially a solution to the problems caused in public service delivery, or the problems that the civil servants are facing in providing public service delivery. Right? Now, what are the problems? She has not mentioned, which is fine. You can also mention these problems as well in terms of corruption, in terms of poor accountability, or in terms of not being able to go to the last mile delivery. All these things you can mention, but she has just kept it very simple. She has given some examples of emerging technologies as well, right? So one approach would be to use any committee report or use any report by Niti Aayog. So Niti Aayog recently published a paper on artificial intelligence, where Niti Aayog suggested that the usage of artificial intelligence can be done to improve governance at various levels, including public service delivery. So you can use that approach. This approach essentially is about explaining the problem statement. So it is basically providing, it is a contextual approach or contextual introduction where it is explaining the significance, right? It's again a very good approach that it is providing that what exactly is the intention for this. So why do we need emerging technologies? Why? Because it is a way for eradicating the problems. So it tells the examiner that she has understood the demand of the question. Okay. Now, if you look at the other aspect, so she has divided the question into various subheadings. First is in terms of emerging technology in civil services. The second subheading that we see is challenges. And third is way forward. So you have emerging. First is in terms of the structure. Obviously, we have the introduction, we have body, and we have conclusion. So apart from the introduction, body, and conclusion, how does the subheadings look like? So we have emerging technologies, which is what the demand of the question is. So this part is met from here to here. So close to 50% or more than even 50% of the space is utilized for the demand of the question, how emerging technologies are aiding public service delivery or civil services. That is the first point. The second point is with regard to challenges. So she has given a balanced approach, because you need to also provide some of the challenges as well, because it has to be, because if it is if there are no challenges, then definitely everything would work in a very smooth manner, but that is not the case. So it is very important that you take a balanced approach towards this problem. And thirdly, you also need to provide some solution, which can be in the favor of way forward. So this is how so first you have introduction, this is the body, and then this is a conclusion, which is a forward-looking conclusion. Okay? So we'll talk about all these elements, right? Now, emerging technology in civil services. So what are these technologies? First is with regard to digitization for enhancing accountability and transparency. Okay. So digitization for enhancing accountability and transparency. So digitization is basically nothing but ICT, information and communication technology. And she has also given a lot of examples such as direct benefit transfer, e-muster role in MG Narega, Bhumi land records in Karnataka. So it enhances accountability. It also provides for transparency. The second part is reaching last mile connectivity, or it leads to inclusive development. So this is how the emerging technology can be utilized. Also, she has addressed this part as well. How does it affect change in India? So it brings inclusive development. How? Through e-education such as MOOC and Swayam. And also with regard to telemedicine, she has mentioned e-Sanjeevani and OPD, e-Sanjeevani OPD, right? So these are the examples where she has mentioned how it is impacting the civil services or the public service delivery, and what is the impact on the change in India. So it is leading to inclusive development. Here it is leading to accountability and transparency. Thirdly, she has also mentioned how it is reducing corruption and red tapeism. Now here she has mentioned two initiatives, RTI Act 2005 and online portals for whistleblowing. Again, this substantiates the fact that it has led to a lot of reduction in corruption and red tapeism, because the process has been made fairly transparent because of RTI and whistleblowing. You can also add other points such as social audit or citizen charter or e-FIRs or zero FIRs. So again, this will become or make it more inclusive. Then fourthly, she has mentioned about better feedback and grievance redressal. Now, one of the pain points of services delivery in our country is that there is hardly any grievance redressal. So in fact, for this purpose, we need to have multiple areas through which citizens can communicate their feedback and grievances in such a way that it is taken into consideration in policy making. So for that, she has given examples of Lokvani in UP in the forms of grievance redressal mechanism, Bhashini, AI language translation, and she has also given e-Kranti Lokmitras, right? Apart from that, you can also give examples of CP grams, right? Which is also a very recent initiative for public service addressal mechanism, grievance redressal mechanism. Now, in the last year, UPSC asked a question on interactive service model of e-governance. So basically, interactive service model of e-governance work in the same manner, that it takes into account the governance or take into account the feedback of the citizen. This is as opposed to the broadcast model. So in the broadcast model, it is a top-down approach where only the communication that is transferred from the government to the citizens are available. Right? So here you can also talk about the interactive service model of e-governance. You can also give example of MyGov portal. Right? So this is how she has addressed the demand of the question. Now, she does not stop. She also talks about the challenges. And what challenges does she mentions? Digital divide. Only 20% Indians able to use internet, ITU report, International Telecommunication Union report. Then you have data privacy issues, prone to misuse. Thirdly, resistance to change, status quo nature from civil services or civil servants. Right? So here she has given a very broad challenge, not just limited to the civil services, but also limited or also expanded to the citizen at large, and also about the infrastructure that is present, right? Then finally, she has given a way forward. So she does not just limit herself to the challenges, because you want to provide, or you want to be seen as a solution oriented or a person who has solution. So she has also given some solution as well. Training and capacity building. And for that, she has given Mission Karm Yogi or IGOT, which is Integrated Government Online Training. So here, by increasing their awareness about the emerging technologies, this can be addressed. Or also adoption of simpler technologies, which will help people, even though who do not have adequate access to internet, can also understand, right? Now, this is a very short conclusion that she has done. In Amrit Kal, a reformed civil services with technology can lead to developed India. So she has linked the question to the vision of developed India, which is a wonderful way to conclude your answer. So we have discussed the approach or the strategic planning or the brainstorming. Then we have discussed the structure. Third, in terms of content. Content we have also discussed in terms of how it is multidimensional in approach. So here she has used terms from governance such as accountability, transparency, inclusive development from economics. This is from governance. Corruption and red tapeism again from governance, and better feedback and grievance redressal both from polity and governance. And she has used all these examples. So first, content is very specific to the demand of the question. Secondly, there are a lot of examples. As you can see, there are a lot of examples. In fact, all these statements are filled with examples, right? Plus, there are data. You can see that here she has used data. How many people could, with respect to explaining the problem of digital divide. And she has also used these policies or these schemes that are recently. So this is Mission Karm Yogi or National Program for Civil Services Capacity Building, right? So she has also used schemes as well, right? And in terms of so the presentation, how is the presentation? See, again, what she has done is, in terms of presentation, I'll show you effectively what she has done. First, let's talk about the writing. Okay, so handwriting is simple and easy to read. It is not that fancy. Okay, it is easy. We are able to, even though it is a running handwriting, but we are able to read it properly. Second, you can see that there are usage of boxes for subheading. So subheadings are boxed. For example, this, and way forward. So the examiner will know that this is a point where the aspirant is giving a different perspective, or there's a transition. So this is for transition or to convey a different point of view. Okay. Then within the boxes we see there are somewhat, you can say, flows or arrows, flowcharts or flows, because here she has used arrows to show various points, which is a good way of presentation, right? Because if you just write everything in detailed form, then it will take a lot of time. So here she has used flowcharts or arrows to present the answer in a very concise manner, which is a very good art, because ultimately you have limited space to write, and if you are not able to write or communicate what you know, then you miss out on getting good marks. So with very few tweaks, she is able to communicate a lot of complex ideas in very simple terms. Finally, she has used bullet points or point formats to write all these arguments, right? And then she has underlined the keywords. She has underlined the keywords as well. For example, emerging technologies, artificial intelligence, MG Narega, Bhumi, all these things are underlined. So it is very essential, or it becomes very easy for the examiner to understand which part to focus upon, right? So this is how the topper has approached this. So we have talked about all the 4 key elements, including the brainstorming aspect, or the second part was in terms of the structure part, the third part was presentation, and the content part. right? So this basically is how you analyze topper's copy. In general, what can toppers way of writing teach us about answer writing? So these are the broad areas that can help you understand. The first thing is it helps us to understand the demand of the question, right? It understands the direction in which you should go. The second thing, it helps the structure part. It helps us structure the answer smartly with organizing subpoints thematically, just like Ms. Komal Punia did. Then we have, it can help with enriching with relevance, for example, schemes, examples. Then it provides you to stay balanced, acknowledge the challenges, and provide realistic solutions, the way forward. Then keep it concise, crisp, and presentable. You can present a lot of ideas in a very simple format. Then you can think like a problem solver because you are providing solutions as well. See, so this is how you can analyze toppers' copies. Now, how will VisionIAS help you? So VisionIAS has dedicated test series and mentoring programs wherein we incorporate all these toppers elements. So all the topper validated framework is part of our learning pedagogy, right? So in the test, the topper framework will be there. This will help you understand what works and what doesn't. So maybe you have confusion over whether to write in point format or whether to use paragraph. So if you see this, that by using a bullet format, you can provide multiple arguments, then possibly you will be more incentivized to use bullet format. Similarly, if you need or if you have confused about how to use diagrams, then whenever you look at the topper's copy and they have utilized diagrams in a very creative way, then you can use that to your own advantage. Secondly, the VisionIAS will also provide you with personalized mentoring where you'll have a dedicated support for performance improvement, resource and time management. Thirdly, we also provide innovative assessment system, which is a trademarked approach designed to refine your answers for precision, depth, and high scoring potential. So essentially, this is designed in the innovative assessment system. It's designed to ensure that you closely mirror the topper's approach in terms of not just the content, but also the presentation. So that's it for today's session. Thank you so much for joining.